So I'll go over it again, and then surely you will understand. Yesterday we got to Genesis 15. That covenant is called the Abrahamic covenant. You will see this in the Bible several places. And I have two questions. The first question is, somebody is requesting, now that we are learning about the Old Testament, which is even past, and we belong to the New Testament, when are we going to study the New Testament? It depends on you guys. If you want to learn, who am I? I'm always available. I'll help you learn. And the second question is, somebody is requesting pastor to introduce himself properly. Most of you don't know me, and you want to know me well. And you want to know whether pastor is married or single or engaged or is searching, or he doesn't want to search, or he's in Pauline ministry. How many of you would like to hear the answers to those questions? Oh, really? Interesting. Yesterday, when I wanted to talk about virginity, you guys said no. We came here for Torah. The same way, I don't know why we came here for Torah now. You want to know whether or not pastor is married. It's also not in the Torah. You say, I got you guys now. I got you now. Yes, I got you. When we want to deviate, you guys, yesterday, you said no, we are here for Torah. I shouldn't deviate. I shouldn't touch virginity. That one, no. All right, I promise you I won't touch it. And I'll stick to my promise. Okay, let's start with Genesis 15. Can somebody read for me? So I pick it for you one by one. Maybe that will help. It'll be good if you will be looking through your own Bible. All right, so we got here yesterday, Genesis 15. Can somebody read for me? If you are not the one reading, you look on your screen. Okay, so I can explain this picture here.
Praise the Lord.
All right,
Genesis chapter 15, reading from verse 1. After these things, the word of the Lord came unto Abram in a vision, saying, Fear not, Abram, I am thy shield and thy exceeding great reward. And Abraham said, Lord God, wilt thou give me, seeing I go childless, and the steward of my house is this Eliezer of Damascus? And Abram said, Behold, to me thou hast given no seed, and lo, one born in my house is mine heir. Verse 4, and behold, the word of the Lord came unto him, saying, This shall not be thine heir, but he that shall come forth out of thy own bowels shall be thine heir. And he brought him forth abroad and said,
all right, wait for now. Wait for now. This is Genesis 15, right? God met Abraham in Genesis 12. So they've been friends for some time now. And God regularly talks with Abraham. But this particular time, when God came, he began to talk to him about his future. But when God was talking with him, Abraham doesn't seem getting what God was talking about. When God was talking, he was pointing to, I have no child, and the one in my house is Damascus and whatever, a whole lot of stuff. So God knew that Abraham wasn't getting the picture. So he invited him out. He said, come out. Let me help you understand. Continue.
Verse 5, and he brought him forth abroad and said, look now toward heaven and tell the stars, if thou be able to number them. And he said unto him, so shall thy seed be. And Abraham believed in the Lord, and he counted it to him for righteousness. And he said unto him, I am the Lord that brought thee out of the Ur of the Chaldees to give thee this land to inherit.
All right,
And
wait
he
a minute.
said,
So when God brought Abraham outside, he said, look into the sky and count the stars. Abraham looked, he couldn't count them, and God said, that is how your descendants will be. They will be as numerous as the stars in the heavens. And the Bible said Abraham believed God. Even though he had no child, he believed God.
yes, sir.
He believed that his children, he caught the picture now. Now, if we are preaching this, there is a perspective we make you look at it from. The reason why, you see, when God invites anybody outside and say count stars and you couldn't count, what is the believing in this? It's not really a big deal. Anybody can look at stars and say, well, this is how my descendants will be. You see, a whole lot of you don't have boyfriend or girlfriend yet you believe you have a child. So what is the big deal in Abraham's belief here? That is not just that. All right. It's not just that. What happened there when Abraham looked into the sky was he saw the whole world. All right. By his spirit, he saw the whole world. And God said, you have it. So it is not really about the stars he saw. He saw the whole world. So God willed the world to him. All right. That is how we became children of Abraham, because God willed the world to him. So legally, the world belongs to Abraham now. And if you read in Galatians, the Bible says, and his seed, right? Abraham and his seed. So the world at this time doesn't belong to Satan. It belongs to Abraham. It was willed to Abraham by God in this same event. So when God saw that Abraham saw the whole world by his spirit, he willed it to him. So now God wants to confirm his word to him by a covenant. He wants to seal it. I told you this Abrahamic covenant has nothing to do with Abraham, but it was his belief that brought it in. It was his faith that brought it in. So God is going to now officialize it by going into covenant with Abraham. In other words, God is going to seal a covenant with him. Well, in the chat, we have the scriptures there. I told you I really don't want to be reading New Testament along. It will take us too long. All right. So continue reading. Let's look at the covenants. What happened?
Get into verse 8. And he said, Lord God, whereby shall I know that I shall inherit it? And he said unto him, take an heifer of 3 years old, and a she-goat of 3 years old, and a ram of 3 years old, and a turtle dove, and a young pigeon. And he took unto him all these, and divided them in the midst, and laid each piece one against another. But the birds divided he not. And when the fowls came down upon the carcasses, Abram drove them away.
All right,
and
wait
when
a minute.
The sun
Let's speak it
was
one by
going down,
one.
a deep sleep.
Now, yesterday, I used this picture to explain covenant in general. Get the difference well. This one is just explaining covenant in general. Anybody who wants to cut covenant, this is how they go about it. You take the animals. When we just read about the Abrahamic covenant, you just had the animals used, right? And the specific years, they have to be 3 years old and a bird. So God specified which animals to be used for the covenant. But we have different types of covenants depending on the covenant. All right. I gave you an example that those days when you buy a plot of land from somebody, we don't have anything like we are writing papers or on it. Today, you get papers on it, right? Legally sign on it. Those days, there was nothing like that. So you cut a covenant. So you cut a covenant for the land. After the covenant, then the land legally belongs to the buyer. How does it happen? I said, depending on the type of covenant, that will determine the type of animals you use. But if it is 1, 2, 3, 4, or whichever number, what you do is you divide the animals in 2 parts. All right? Like the way it's divided on the screen, it's fine. You can also divide it if you want to divide the animal like this. You cut the head and then you divide it like this, or you want to cut through like this to have here to be 1 part, and then you have here to be other parts. That is also fine. The most important thing is the animal is divided into 2. But to divide it like this is easier than dividing it like this, right? Yeah, so we prefer to divide it like this. So you cut the animals into 2. And then you set them apart so that the blood can flow towards each other to create what? A blood path. All right, to create a blood path. The blood path is very important because that is where the covenant is going to be cut. Both of you must walk through the blood. So after you create the blood path, then both parties, party A will stand here. Sorry. Party A will stand here at this side of the blood path, and party B stands here at this side of the blood path, facing each other. After they face each other, then they recite the terms and the condition of the covenant. All right, they stand facing each other, then they recite the terms and condition of the covenant. So let's start with A. A will declare A is selling the land to B. So A goes first. A will say, I, Oskolompo, by virtue of this covenant, I have given this land to you as your property, and henceforth it's no longer mine. And if I claim the land back without your permission, may I die like this animal both of us can see here, and may I be cut into pieces like these animals being cut into pieces here. Then A is done. Then we go for B. B goes for his covenant, his term side of the covenant. Then B says, I, Madam Melin, I also agree to take this land from you at so and so price. And after giving you this money, the land legally belongs to me now. And until I sell it to you, you don't have rights to the land anymore. When the terms and conditions are good for both parties, what happened? They exchange position. All right, they exchange position. A walks through the blood path with his legs touching the blood and take the position of A. And then B also walks through the blood path and takes the position of the previous person. And then the covenant is cut. All right, we don't do covenant, we cut covenant. All right, so the covenant is over. Then they can pack the things and go away. The animal is thrown somewhere or buried or wherever, you know, and then they go. Covenant is cut. So that point, from that time, the property belongs to the buyer now. So this is how generally we cut covenant. Yesterday, I explained to you that we don't cut the birds. okay, because they are too small. So you don't cut them. If it is one, you just place it at one side of the covenant. If they are two, one here, one at the other side. All right. So if there are two different kinds of bird, like you can see here, two different kinds, you also place one at this side, the other one at this side to cut the covenant. Is this one clear? So this is what they were doing before. So God wants to go into covenant with Abraham. So now God invited Abraham to take the following animals that we just read about. So Abraham prepared the place for the covenant, and then he divided the animals, as you can see. These are group A, and then these are group B. Same animal divided, different animals divided. And then we have the birds here, one here, the other one here. And Abraham was waiting at this side of the covenant. All right. Usually, the one who is giving out takes the north part of the covenant, and the recipient or the lesser takes the other side, the southern part. So Abraham was there waiting for God to come and they cut the covenant. I don't even know what he was expecting. Was he expecting to see God coming, walking through it? I don't know what he was expecting though. But yeah, he was there waiting for God. So continue reading. Let's see what happened.
Okay, we continue to verse 12. And when the sun was going down, a deep sleep fell upon Abram, and lo, an horror of great darkness fell upon him.
Wait a minute. Did we read about the birds coming for carcasses?
Yes, sir. That's in verse 11.
All right. So these are the birds that came for the carcasses. These ones are not part of the covenant. All right. From this picture, they're just showing you this bird. These are vultures, right? So they are just coming for the carcasses. They are not part of the covenant. Okay, don't take picture of this and say vulture was used. Vulture was not part of the animals. You couldn't use vulture for a covenant. That would be a terrible one. All right. So, and then as it gets darker, what happened? A deep sleep fell upon Abraham. And I said that was caused by God. He wasn't sleeping because he was tired of waiting. All right. He wasn't sleeping because he was tired of waiting. The deep sleep was caused by God. All right, continue reading.
Verse 13. And he said unto Abram, know of a surety that thy seed shall be a stranger in a land that is not theirs, and shall serve them, and they shall afflict them 400 years. And also that nation whom they shall serve will I judge, and afterward shall they come out with great substance.
All right.
And thou shalt go to thy fathers.
So when it was getting darker, what happened was a dark cloud, even if it wasn't dark enough, if it wasn't evening time, the dark cloud is enough to create the darkness. All right. That was the presence of God. God is around. So he came in with, and what Abraham saw was a torchlight, something of this sort, right? A torchlight came and walked through the blood path. Here is the blood path, right? Came and walked through, and God cut covenant with himself. I explained this to you. We have two types of covenants, which I said I will send you the notes. We have conditional covenant and then unconditional covenant. Conditional covenant is where both parties are involved. All right, both parties are involved. You have your part of the covenant, and I have my part of the covenant. So the terms and conditions, I come with mine, you come with yours, right? And then we have the unconditional one. The unconditional one is usually cut by great people with the other people. Let me give you an example. Usually cut between kings and their people. Sometimes when a king is installed, he goes into covenant with his people that he will serve them and serve them well. So what happens is we have the animals here. Okay, let me use the previous picture. Let me clean it and then get back. It's cut. Let me explain this to you. You really need to understand this covenant things. Okay, so if let's use this for an unconditional covenant. What happens during an unconditional covenant is, let's assume this is a king. It's looking like Pastor Rabuti though. Okay, and then we have the other side. Okay, the people. A king wants to go into covenant with his people. So what happens is, this is an unconditional covenant. It is only the king that is going to walk through the blood path. All right. So the king will recite his whatever he wants to commit himself to with the people. The king will recite it alone. The people don't say anything. And then after he will recite his terms and conditions, he will walk through the blood path alone and come to the people. That is all. The people are not allowed to walk through the blood path because they don't have any commitment to him. So this is the unconditional one. It's going to be kept by one person. All right. So if he declared that he's going to protect the land, if nobody agreed to go with war with him, he must go alone, because that was what he said. Because the people are not obligated to protect the land with him. They may choose to, they may choose not to. They are not bound by the covenant. But he said he will protect the land. So he will use the people. They may agree to go with him. They may agree not to go. They are not, the covenant is not binding them. It's binding only the king. So one party is involved here, right? So the other party only benefits without any legal binding. Do you get the difference? Yes. So that is what happened with God and Abraham. It was an unconditional one. It was only God that walked through the blood path. Abraham was not asked to walk through. And I said, if you go to the New Testament, this is what we call the everlasting covenant. This is where it was cut. Where God himself made a covenant with himself. All right? God made a covenant with himself. He didn't even say anything to Abraham, after which he said his children will be a slave. I'm not sure this is a nice covenant. Who goes to a covenant and go and hear your children are going to be slave for 400 years? Not 4 years, not 40 years. 400. Nobody would like to hear this during covenants. Covenant is supposed to be a good news. But when God was done, he gave him a word of prophecy as well, that this is what is going to happen to his children. And it was so. We will look at that. So God made a covenant with himself. In other words, the terms and conditions of the covenant is going to be kept by God alone. That is why we Christians, the covenant that brought us in is kept by God without you. Whether you break your part of the covenant or not, you don't even have a part to break, because he didn't cut a covenant with you. Do you get it? He made a covenant with himself. So as far as God keeps his term and condition of the covenant, you are saved, not you. Do you get it? So you are not part of this. That is the covenant we belong to the New Testament covenant. But this is where it was cut. God made the covenant with himself. So now the fulfillment of the covenant was Christ. He came to fully officiate it. So Jesus came in, and we said we use his blood for the covenant. The covenant was already made, but he is now coming in with us in him. All right? He is coming in with us in him. So he used his blood to officiate the covenant now. So now the covenant is activated. Even though it was made many years back, it wasn't at work. We were using the old covenant, the Old Testament, the old covenant, which was officiated by Moses. That is for Israel only. But this one is for all humans, humanity, those who existed before and those who were there and those after. This covenant covers all of them. So God made a covenant with himself here, and then he gave a word to Abraham. I want us to move forward. At the end of the class, I'll come back to talk about this again. You just need to understand this. So let's move on. Let's see what happens. Then, after which God gave a sign to Abraham, he said, Abraham. I think that's 17, right? God said, Abraham, you know something? For you to, your part of the covenant is you need to carry a sign in your body as part of the covenant. So you yourself and all the male born in your house must be circumcised. So by then, Isaac was born. Isaac, Abraham, and all the men in his house were all circumcised the same day. Abraham was circumcised whenever Isaac was 8 days old. 8 days old. So you can imagine the trauma, the drama Sarah went through in that house. Papa AB is cut. And you can imagine the way they are walking, right? They're walking like this. So while we are trying to heal Isaac, we are trying to heal Abraham and all the men in his house. And the Bible says Abraham had more than 300 servants. All of them cut one day. The women did a great job in those days. You can imagine. You can imagine. But yeah, that is going to be a sign in their body. They will have to carry a sign in their body. And what is the meaning of that? That reminds them that their fruitfulness is a gift from God. All right? Their fruitfulness is a gift from God. All right, let's move on. Several years after, Abraham died, and then he went to be with his ancestors. And that is the end of Abraham. Let me take you back a little bit. What have we just looked at? We look at, I said Genesis 12 to 50 focus on Abraham and his family. So we just discussed Abraham himself. We look at his mistakes. When we said a mistake of Abraham and his children, we are looking at those things they did that put God's promise in trouble. All right? Those things that endangered the promise God made to them. So from them, I gave you some of them. First one, Abraham denied Sarah. And I explained to you that should another man sleep with Sarah, hey, that is going to mess up everything. Isaac wouldn't be a righteous son anymore, for which Christ wouldn't be born. So God quickly intervened. In the 2 occasions, God quickly intervened and then restored the promise. The second one, Abraham went in and gave birth with Hagar. And that will also endanger the promised child, because this Ishmael is going to be treated as the promised child. But this was not what God said. God said the one that will come from your own loins, your own. So he said, after all, Ishmael is also coming from my own loins. But if you go to the book of Galatians, the Bible spoke about the free woman and the bondwoman. We Christians must come from the free woman, but Hagar was a bondwoman. So Abraham doing this, he was putting the promise of God in danger. At the same time, God came in quickly and intervened, after which he restored the promise again. Let's move on. And then there were so many other, mistakes Abraham made, but let's leave that for now. Let's look at the next one, Jacob and Isaac. If you know the story, I assume you know these stories already. So we are told that Isaac was born by Abraham and Sarah, and he married the wife, a beautiful and wonderful wife called Rebecca. Then we are told, I'll take a little longer time here. Then we are told that when she was pregnant, the children, struggled within her. So she went to inquire of the Lord. And the Lord said, there are 2 nations inside you. He gave words concerning both of them. Those of you who have been in those classes, I explained to you the first mistake. Rebecca came back and didn't tell the husband what God said. She kept it to herself. And then she gave birth. When she gave birth, we are told that the younger one, Mr. Smooth, if you can see from the picture here, can you see the head of this one is smooth, no hair, right? And this one has hair all over. We are told that is how the children are. Jacob came Mr. Smooth, and the other one came very hairy. But we are told that at their birth, the younger one came out holding the heel of the other. So they named him Jacob, deceiver, because they thought holding the heel of the brother is a way to deceive him or to take, I don't know. But they named him Jacob, deceiver, and they named the other one Esau. And the 2 children grew up. And as you know the story, but you see, there is a lot to learn from these 2 guys, this family, Rebecca, Isaac, Jacob, and Esau. Every Christian should study these people, this family. There is no family failure in the Bible like this family. And if you are planning to have a family, you need to study this subject very well. 1, there was division in the house. Rebecca loved Jacob because from what God said, he said the elder one will serve the younger one. So she was like, okay, let me go for the best. So she loved Jacob. And the daddy too, we are told, he loved meat. And since Esau was also a hunter, he also loved the other one. To the point that it was visible, they could see it, everybody could see it in the house. That one loved the other and the other one. Interestingly, Jacob was an animal farmer. He was in the house, right, with his domestic animals. And this one goes to the bush. Since Jacob has always been with mommy in the house, he learned how to cook, right? And mommy once told this guy about something called birthright. Let me tell you what happened. One day, mommy was having a conversation with Jacob in the kitchen. Then Jacob made a statement, and mommy said, no, it's not going to be so, because your brother is actually the firstborn and he has the birthright. So you are not going to be the man after your father. And Jacob was like, why? Why could it be so? The mom was like, well, that's how it is. You are just not lucky. You were born the second one. So your brother is definitely going to be the man after your father. So Jacob asked the mom, so how can't we do anything about this? So mommy told him, he said, if only you can get the birthright from him. And Jacob was like, how do I do this? He said, well, you made him swear it to you. In other words, he will go into covenant with you. Let him go into covenant with you. That henceforth, are you getting the power of covenant? Let him tell you that henceforth you are the elder one, and it shall be so. And Jacob was like, all right, mommy, trust me. Trust your little boy. I'll do it. So we are told that one day, a boy came back from the field. He came back so hungry. And he said, give me food to eat. As usual, if you study the Bible, he has always been doing it. As usual. But our boy said, this time, today, I am not giving you any food until you do something. He said, what should I do? He said, sell me your birthright. And we are told that Esau said, human being is dying. You said birthright. If I die, what will be the use of birthright to me? He said, oh yeah, take birthright and give me food. What happened here? There was an exchange. Even though this one, blood is not involved, but there was an exchange. Birthright was given and food was given. So it was complete. Our boy ate and he stood up and went his way. Then Jacob quickly ran to mommy and said, mommy, guess what? Mommy is like, what happened? He said, I told you, trust your boy. I got it. He said, you got what? He said, he sold his birthright to me. Mommy is like, are you sure? He said, yeah. He said, how did you do it? I said, I told you, because I know he will come back hungry. I prepared you. I was waiting for him. So he came back. I told him, mommy is exactly, is correct. It's accurate. They gave high five to each other. They've done it. What happened here again? Mommy should have talked to daddy about what happened. That birthright has been sold out. What happened? Mommy kept quiet again. Let me see if I get a good picture here. Oh, there was one of the pictures that really described the job. I didn't put it here for you. So many years passed after this event. Many years passed. Then one day, Rebecca woke up and she noticed daddy's health. Isaac's health is not very good. This funny looking guy could die anytime now, any moment from now. So he pretended to have been sweeping the room, you know, those moments where women are sweeping the room. They are just looking for something. They are not really sweeping room, you know. So she's just sweeping the room and singing, I am born again. Just doing his own stuff in the room. Then he heard daddy said, Rebecca, please call Esau for me. So she went outside and said, hey, your dad is calling you. And then he came in. Then Rebecca heard daddy said, go to the bush, get me a meat, prepare some nice venison for me. Let me eat and bless you before I die. Rebecca, she heard it. So the moment the guy, she came out and said, Jacob, J, come around. So our boy quickly ran in and said, hey, look, this is the day. Your dad is about to bless your brother, but you know the birthright actually belongs to you. So we are going to do the magic. Oh, I wish I'm reading these things to you. So the boy said, how are we going to do this? You know, my brother is hairy. I am smooth. He said, don't worry, I'll fix that. Then the boy asked the mother, he said, what if daddy realized that I am not Esau and he will end up cursing me? Instead of me getting blessing, I'll be cursed. The mother said, let that curse come upon me. In other words, another covenant has happened here. Whatever the outcome, if it is evil, let it come over me. So the mother was ready to pay the price. Now the guy is settled. They went ahead. And Esau was like, how do we get the food? He said, look, I've been married to your brother, to your father for 40 years now. I know his taste. I know the food. Let's go. I'll prepare it. They quickly rushed to the kitchen, prepared a meal, and he brought it to the father. Look at what happened here. A young woman was behind a boy, making sure they cover the guy's hand with the skin. And, you know, I'm wondering, was he that really hairy? Or they cut some of the, well, you know them. If people want to be evil, they can do anything. They design it just like the guy's hand. The father filled it several times, said, are you sure? But this voice is really not yours. I said, Daddy, stop the nonsense and bless. Bless. And then he went ahead and he blessed. Pastor Rabuti, get the blessing for me. That one, I need to read it. Get the blessing for me. During the blessing, those words. Even during the blessing, there was favoritism. During the blessing, there was favoritism. Listen to it. Let me read it to you. Let me tell you the lesson from this. If you are a parent and you love some or one of your children than the others, it's a curse. It's a curse. Don't do it. All right? It's anti-human. And that is what is playing the role here. Pastor, have you found it? Your mic is muted.
Yes, sir.
Listen
Verse
to the words
27.
of the blessing. Read it to me.
Genesis chapter 27, from verse 26. And his father Isaac said unto him, Come near now and kiss me, my son. And he came near and kissed him, and he smelled the smell of his raiment, and blessed him, and said, See, the smell of my son is as the smell of a field which the Lord
All right,
hath blessed.
wait. Let me give you the background. Isaac thought he was blessing Esau. So the words he was pronouncing upon him, he was actually referring to him. He was referring to Esau. So read it. Let's see. What did he say?
Verse 28. Therefore, God give thee of the dew of heaven, and the fatness of the earth, and plenty of corn and wine. Let people serve thee, and nations bow down to thee. Be Lord over thy brethren, and let thy mother's sons bow down to thee.
Okay,
Curse
wait a
thee,
minute.
everyone.
Wait a minute. Let's what? Do you know what he thought he was doing here? He thought he said, look, let that stubborn guy, Jacob, let him serve you. Let him serve you. Look, this favoritism in the house, I'm really tired. I'm now going to put that guy under you. And these are words of blessing. They will surely come to pass. They will. So to him, he thought he was putting Jacob under Esau because he knew he would die soon. And it will be left with Rebekah. It will be left with 2 against 1. Even when he was alive, it wasn't easy for Esau. How much more he's dying? So he wants to sustain the guy before he died. He made things worse. Why is this thing worse? Because of this favoritism in the house. This division, family division in the house. I'll tell you the consequences and the implication of this. Okay, you, Pastor, is enough. I didn't get, I skipped some of these beautiful pictures. I skipped them. Let me tell you the story, even though the pictures are not here. After the blessing, Jacob got the blessing. Esau came around and noticed that the brother has taken his birthright. He promised and vowed that he will kill the guy. The same thing, mommy heard it. I said, quickly run away. Your brother will kill you. So Jacob ran from the house and went to Laban, the mother's brother. What happened over there? From that day, that was the last time even Rebekah saw Jacob again. What he was protecting, what he wanted to have for her, what she wanted to have for herself is gone. She has never seen Jacob again. That was the last day. The family is broken. Pardon?
She was in covenant.
Well, it's gone. The boy is gone. And now, Esau live in the same house with Rebekah. And you know that wouldn't be easy. You are an old woman now. She brought a disaster to the house. The boy went and wouldn't really enjoy the blessing. You know the story. He went and became a slave to his uncle. This is the blessed man. I don't know why these things are not in there. I thought I added them. This is supposed to be the blessed man. He is now a slave, family failure. This is not how the man carrying the blessing, the Abrahamic covenant, the Abrahamic blessing. This is not how the man was supposed to live. But because dad was supposed to participate in raising Jacob, because he was a guy to be raised by the father, But because the mother wouldn't allow the father to raise him, he didn't know how to choose a life partner. Are you still here? Because yes, he is going to be the one to carry the blessing. He was supposed to be certain things where he was supposed to be taught by the father, but the mother wouldn't allow the father to teach him. He went inside for 7 years. That one didn't work. He added another 7 years. All these things, what is happening here? All these things are putting God's blessing in danger. God's blessing is in law, 14 years. People are dying. Adam's seed are dying. We are waiting for the Christ. The career of the blessing is in law, 14 years. No, when is Christ going to be born? From the time Adam disobeyed till the birth of Christ, it wasn't God who delayed it, it was man. And I'm showing you what is delaying it. These are the things delaying it. The career of Christ, the one who is going to produce Christ, is in love. He said 7 years. He said, look, I love this woman. Another 7, no problem. People are dying. They needed salvation. God's blessing is in love. Salvation of men has fallen in love in uncle's house. He's enjoying chemistry and love. People are dying out there, right? People are dying out there. Until it went on and on and on and on and on. Let's look at the family. Another family failure started from this guy again. He went in there, married one. He said he loved Leah. Oh, really? So what happened to him? During the first 7 years. Oh, after he served for 7 years, and he was supposed to be given the wife. In their culture, whoever you want to marry at that time will be covered, will be veiled as a sign of virginity. What you don't want me to mention. So will be veiled and taken into a room. And then you, the man, ceremonially will be escorted into the room to have a nice time. After which, the woman is your wife. During the time, the wrong person was sent in for him. The wrong person, the elder sister, was sent in for him. But this is the key. So is Jacob telling Torah class? Is Jacob telling us here that he went inside, had a nice time, and he didn't realize that he was having a nice time with the wrong person? Is that what Jacob is trying to tell Torah class? No, talk to me here. No. Jacob might have been playing a smart game here. Ah, no. This couldn't be. No, this couldn't be. No, Jacob wouldn't say that. No, Jacob saying he's smarter. And you know something? He was in there the whole night. Now wake up morning and now say, Uncle, you deceive me. Deceive you?
At least they had candles, Pastor. Hey.
Yes, at least so.
Yes.
At least the candle. We are not saying electricity, but at least candle was there. Let's even assume the room was dark.
Pastor, remember they had a party first, so he drank too much. His eyes was overshadowed.
Hey, people are speaking for Jacob now.
I agree.
Yeah, Jacob's lawyers are here. I'm not sure we will win this case. Lawyers are here. Talk to me now. Is that what? But even let's assume the room was dark. At least you've been with somebody for 7 good years. 7. You know the shape, at least. And at least even the voice, because I'm not sure the lady was just quiet.
Because you are going the same. That's why I basically see how far with the fish.
Is the person in the mosque or he's in Torah class?
Sorry, sir.
Oh, okay. He's not talking to us. No, this thing, it looks like Jacob wanted to play a smart game here. Me, I don't understand this, even though we have lawyers here, so I don't want to say much again. But me personally, I don't understand this. Yes, the shape is there. The voice, even the voice, definitely. The lady might have made some sound. This is nice time. It's during nice time. The lady might surely make some sound. So you hear, hey, Jacob, don't do that. And you hear the voice and say, well, I even though I know it's the wrong person, but I'll fix this in the morning. Someone said they were twins. They were not twins. They were not twins. And you know something we are told. Look, let's leave that. Let me show you PPT and we continue. Leave Jacob alone. He thought he was smarter than the uncle. No, you are not smarter than your uncle. So he went in there, have a nice time throughout the night, came back in the morning and said, well, uncle, you deceived me. Uncle was, I deceive you after having a nice time. So you broke the virginity. Now you want who to marry her? Oh boy, stop the nonsense. She's your wife. But if you want the one you say you really love, you need to serve another 7 years. That one, I can help you. Hey. Pause for a moment. Just assume you are God. God was watching. Is Jacob going to take another 7 years? While we are waiting for the salvation of men. Jacob said, give me 2 days to think about it. He came back and said, well, you know something, uncle. You know me, I love this lady. 7 years, I am in. Sign me up. I'm in. Dear Lord Jesus, God declared to human beings, he said, well, you have another 7 more years to go. And people of God, while all this drama is going on, people are dying and going to hell. All right? Look at the other side of the story. The seed of Adam. Wickedness is filling the earth. People are dying and going to hell. Another 7 years of going to hell has been signed by Jacob. He signed 7. We thought that would be enough. No, he signed another 7 more. And God has nothing to do until men will be ready for their own salvation. Oh, we are just doing the storyline. You will see the difficulty. Okay. So you know the story. He ended up, getting 4. Yeah, he ended up getting 4. He went in first with this one as wife 1. This one became wife 2. And they gave their servants to Jacob as well. Because those days I told you, when your maid gave birth with your husband, the child actually belongs to you. All right. So by that principle, when Leah noticed that she wasn't giving birth, she pushed the servant to Jacob to produce a child for her. Do you understand? To produce a child for her. And for Rachel, she was giving birth like pig. Every Tuesday, she will give birth to 1. Another Tuesday, 1. Every Tuesday, 1. Every Tuesday, 1. Just like that. The same thing Sarah did. Gave servants. The same thing happened to the Abrahamic line again. I said repeated mistake against God's faithfulness. Well, Jacob ended up producing how many children? 12. Who are now the 12 sons of Jacob. Are you still here? Wow. What are you guys talking? Already 30 charts. Oh, you are having a nice time, right? Okay. If you have a question, just let me know. So I answer the question before we continue. Okay, let's move on. And these 12 sons, today, as we talk, they are all in heaven. And they are the first 12 of the 24 elders around God's throne. And the remaining 12 are the apostles. Don't ask me whether Judas is among them. When we get to heaven, you will see them. So when you see them and Judas is among them, fine. If he's not among them, you can ask God where he is. He will answer. All right. So the 12 children became this. All right, let's move on. Today, we are not interested in that. We will come to that. Then we are told that one day, Jacob wrestled with God. Because at this time, things were really hard for him. Even though he was the promised son, he was the one carrying the Abrahamic blessing. Because of family failure, the mother's misbehaving. The mother didn't give an opportunity to the dad to raise him for the job. So things were really hard for him at this time. And one time we are told that he wrestled with God, with an angel who happens to be God. And he said, you are not going anywhere until you bless me. And the angel said, I am not blessing you anywhere. He said, you are blessing me. He said, I'm not blessing you. You are blessing me. I'm not blessing you. He said, I'm blessing me. So and the angel finally said, okay, wait a minute. What is your name? And Jacob said, I am Jacob now. You know, when somebody is already upset, wrestling with you, he won't answer nicely. He said, what do you need my name for? I said, bless me. Stop asking my name. He said, no, tell me your name. He said, I'm Jacob. The angel said, no, I can't bless Jacob, a deceiver. When I bless you right now, you will become an armed robber. Because even without blessing, you are already a deceiver, deceiving people already. So if I add blessing to this name, you will become an armed robber. I can't bless Jacob. So the only blessing I can, the angel is actually saying, your name is your problem. Your name is your problem. So to take away the problem, let's change your name. You will no longer be called Jacob, and you will be called Israel. That is why we have his children became the children of Israel. All right. The original man was Jacob, which later changed. God changed his name to make him Israel. And he had 12 sons who became the 12 sons of Israel, who also became the general nation of Israel. This is a big turnaround for all humans. There is hope now. It's like the career of the blessing has been well positioned now for salvation of men. But let's see the story. It didn't end there. This same guy, Jacob, out of his 12 children, we are told, favoritism, he loved one again. Are you following the story? Out of favoritism, he loved one again, one funny guy called Joseph. Why did he love him? Because he was born by Leah, the one he loved. Because he was the son. You know, Leah gave birth to two, right? Who and who?
Rachel, not Leah.
It's Rachel.
Sorry, Rachel. Sorry, Rachel.
Joseph and Benjamin.
Joseph and Benjamin. All right. If you read the story in Egypt, he called for the brother. He said, go bring Benjamin before I give you food, right? He wanted to see the brother, right? All right. Now let's get in here. He loved this one, and we are told that he gave him a coat of different colors. This thing he's wearing and looking like a Muslim. I mean, I don't know what is so nice about this coat that everybody jealous him like that. I don't know what is so nice about it. This thing is looking like a Kung Fu master. I don't know. But yeah, it is not really about the clothes. It has a communication. So father gave him this cloth, and the brothers were like, oh, really? Let's kill him. Let's kill him. So at first they decided to kill him. Later on, they changed their mind and they sold him out to an Egyptian. And he was taken to Egypt as a slave. Dear Lord Jesus, what is happening here? God's blessing has traveled out of the country now. Are you still here? The blessing, we are waiting for salvation of men. Now the blessing has traveled out of the country. It's not even anywhere here. He ended up as a prisoner in Egypt. But all this time, despite their failure, God was working things out. God came in, rescue, restore the promise. He will come in. So we are told that even in prison, God was mightily with Joseph. All right. Now, the same thing happened to Jacob. The lover boy is now sold out. That was what happened to his mother. Lover boy Jacob ran away from the house, never to be seen again. He did the same thing. And now, what is the essence of the coat of many colors here? It's nowhere to be used now. The boy he loved so much is now in prison in Egypt. You know, a miracle happened. He came out and he was elevated to second in command in Egypt. He became a prime minister. No, look, the most important thing here is God is working out the salvation of men. Okay? God can see his promise. Should Joseph die, that would have been the end of men. That would have been the end. That's all, no salvation for man. So God was protecting him. God was working things out for his good. So God elevated him. And then he was elevated to second in command in the land of Egypt. Now, God used him mightily to preserve lives. You know the story. To preserve lives. And there was famine. Israel, Jacob, and the rest of his the rest of his children, the 11 sons and their sons are dying in Israel. So God used Joseph as well to preserve them because they are God's children. So God used him to preserve them. Then this is what he said. These are the words of Jacob. This is at the end of the book. Can you see the chapter? Chapter 50, the last chapter. This is what he said to his brothers. And this is let me read it to you. He said, then his brothers also went and fell down before his face. And they said, behold, we are your servants. Joseph said to them, do not be afraid. For I am in the place of God. No, for am I in the place of God? But as for you, you meant, look at it here, you meant evil against me, but God meant it for good, in order to bring it about as it is this day, to save many lives. So what is God doing here? God is using even the evil of men to produce good. All right. God is using the evil of men to even produce good. God is working mightily for the salvation of men. All right, let's move on. We are almost there. Then one day, Joseph asked permission from Pharaoh. He said, look, you know, this hunger is too hard in my father's area. I want my father and my other brothers to come and live with me in Egypt. And Pharaoh was like, that is all right. That's fine. That's fine. So Joseph sent one of the best convoy to carry his brother. That is the brother inside that cage. The old people really suffered. This is the best convoy in those days. He's inside, the best convoy. And the whole family of Jacob, his sons and his sons' sons and daughters, moved to Egypt. People of God, another dark day for human beings again. The Bible says all those who went were like 70 people. But on their way to Egypt, they are on their way to fulfill Genesis 15, what we just read. God said, your children are going to be in a strange land for 400 years. They are on their way to fulfill that. Now, God's blessing, the carriers of the blessing, the carriers of the Abrahamic blessing, the carriers of the salvation of the world is moving to Egypt for another 400 years before God will come in again to continue to try to save man. Who is making all these things? Men. Are you following? So men are going to die and go to hell another 400 years. We thought just after Jacob would serve for 14 years, that would have been the end. No, a sign up of another 400 years. People of God, I'm not saying 40, I said 400. It's dark, it's sad. Now look at it here. I quoted that for you. It said, now when the sun was going down, a deep sleep fell upon Abram, and behold, a horror and a great darkness fell upon him. Then the Lord said to Abram, no, certainly, certainly, no, certainly. Oh, what a day. That your descendants will be strangers in a land that is not theirs, which was exactly so. And will serve them, and they will afflict them for 400 years. 400 years. The salvation of men has to be postponed for another 400 years. Oh, dear Lord. So I have some stuff here for you. You can take screenshots. Some of their failures and, you know. Now, I don't even want to talk about these things anymore. We can end it here for today. Let me see how many. All right, we are almost done. Let me end it. Let me end it. So they were in Egypt. After 400 years,
Pastor, your mic is muted.
all right, excuse me. Sorry for that. So 400 years pass. These guys, the family of Jacob moved his family, and all the people were 70 in all. They moved to Egypt. And they lived there happily because their brother, their son, is the chief in command. He is the custodian of all the food. He became the supplier of food to the whole world. So they live good up to 400 years. Now the 400 years were fulfilled. So just imagine that Joseph that saved Israel during those things, he was far dead. 400, we are talking about 400 years here. But all the days they live in in Egypt was like 430 years. And I'll tell you, someone's away from the 30 again. Some of you are born, you are not even up to 30 years now. That alone, you said you are struggling. They were there 400 plus the 30. Oh, look at the salvation of men being maltreated in Egypt. This is how you look at the story. These are the salvation of men. These are the ones carrying the seed of Christ. They are in Egypt as a slave, being maltreated. All right. Now, the story is worse now. Israel has moved to Egypt. We are also told that Christ must be born in Bethlehem. They are in Egypt. No hope for any Christ now. The whole story is now in a complete mess. It looks like there is no hope. But we have a piece of hope we need to look out for. In Genesis 49, Jacob was blessing his children before he died. And he was blessing them one after the other, the 12 sons, blessing them one after the other. Then when it got to Judah, Jacob predicted that a king will come through the line of Judah. And that king will save Israel. And through that same king, the whole world will be restored back to the blessing of God, just like God said to Abraham, Genesis 12 and verse 3. So that became our only hope. They are all in Egypt now. This is the hope we have. Out of the mess, this is the hope we have to hold on to, that a king is coming through the lineage of Jacob, and that will be the king to save the world. Well, it's getting better. 400 years passed, and what happened was we have the Jacob, their father, the Joseph, the salvation of the world, the Benjamins, the Reubens, all died in Egypt. And their children and all their children, the Asanas, the Aturus, all of them died in Egypt. Now the family of God is in a strange land. They are dead. They are dying there. And we are holding on to the piece of hope that we have, that one day a king will come from the line of Judah, and through whom the world will be saved. May the Lord bless his holy word. Amen. This is the end of Genesis. Amen. The story has left us in a state of sorrow. Where we have ended, we have 400 years to go before the salvation of men. Oh, dear Lord. How are you looking at the story so far? Some of you, the Bible we are reading now, the stories, it looks like we are reading another book. It's not like the Bible you used to read. Yeah, somebody said the story is really dramatic, full of drama. Men misbehaving. Christ would have come earlier if not for this dramatic stuff here we are reading. These things are not different from us today. Most of us have been a victim of similar things. When parents love some children than others. Just imagine, until Christ was born, imagine the number of people who died and went to hell. Despite God trying to do something about the situation, look at the number of people who died. Look at the other side of the story. While God is doing all these things, because he decided not to deal with men in general anymore, he chose only the family of Abraham, thinking this one will behave. Because if you know the life of Abraham, Abraham was born in this family, this home full of idols. All right. But he prevailed. He prevailed. Actually, Abraham was raised by Noah. Abraham was raised by Noah. So he was taught the ways of God by Noah. The father tried to kill him several times, which couldn't work. He later came back home, destroyed the father's gods, restored righteousness in the house. So God thought, this guy, when I select him, at most by 5 years' time, the world will be saved. Christ will be born. Until Abraham started the drama. He passed it on to his child, Jacob. Jacob dramatized it, passed it to his children. we are not even told about the love life of what is this one? Of Joseph. Yes, that drama amplified. Now they are now in a foreign land, Egypt. If you read the from Genesis 15, you would think it is God who pushed them. It is God who said they would be there. So they went to Egypt. It wasn't God who sent them there. God wouldn't have never do that. God is just telling Abraham, look, this your drama is going to be amplified. And the end result is your children are going to end up in Egypt for 400 years. Just imagine God invited Abraham into the covenant. Men would have been destroyed again. But yeah, we will look at Exodus tomorrow in our next class. Well, there is a question here. Is how was Joseph a part of God's plan in bringing Christ if Christ came from the tribe of Judah? Well, Judah would have died if he were not to preserve lives in Egypt, because the famine was terrible to the point that all of them were going to die. And actually, apart from the family of Jacob, who sent people to Egypt to buy food, those who couldn't afford food from Egypt died in Israel those days. But because Jacob was rich, he was a rich guy, he afforded to buy food from Egypt. And few other people also afford to buy food from there, those who had the money. The poor who couldn't afford, they died. All right. So God used him to preserve the family of the promise. All right. Yeah, they died in sin. I don't want to even be looking at the other side. They are forgotten of God now. They are left to do their own things. They die and receive to hell. And the ones we are looking out to do something about the situation is misbehaving. Friends, is this different from some of us in this call? No. Some of you, this meeting is the salvation of some people who are waiting for you, but you won't come. It's the same thing, because a large group of people are connected to each and every one of us. The more you misbehave, the more you endanger their salvation, and the higher the likelihood that they will die and go to hell, and you will be the reason. Just assume when I gave my life to Christ, I went to fall in love somewhere and I'm married in India now. Would you have been listening to these teachings? Maybe no. No, you wouldn't have. No, you wouldn't have. So, when these classes, I told you several times that we are not the one who organized it. Me, I wouldn't have organized this. What will I use this for? I wouldn't organize this. This was organized by God. And the moment you got an invitation, he had you in plan. It's towards the salvation of some people. If you refuse to join the classes, you are endangering their salvation, including your own. Now, when these people were playing the drama, do they think they were endangering somebody's salvation? They never knew. They never knew. They wouldn't have do it. They never knew. They just thought they were just living their life. That was what they thought they were doing. But their lives were playing a role on other people's calendar. Several people would have been saved if not for this drama they were doing. The same thing is what we do today. Just assume I got a job and I should be at, today is Friday. It's Friday afternoon here. I should have been at work. Just imagine I'm at work now. The clarity some of you are getting now wouldn't have been here, and therefore you continue to walk in darkness. In those areas of your life, you will continue to walk in darkness. Who is to be blamed? It's me, because I got a job. Who is even not going to pay well? There are some people here. Pastor Rabuti is here. He's supposed to be at the hospital now. The moment TORAH class was announced, he changed his schedule to night. Night schedules are not nice. They are not easy. Nobody like it. You leave your wife and your children and everything home, your comfortable bed. Go and be in the night. What are you looking for? You are treating people. But for the sake, so he can participate, because the classes are going to be afternoon at his place, he changed 2 weeks going to be in the night. According to the principle, you are supposed to be in the night for only 3 days. Sacrifices ought to be made for the sake of other people. I have a question here. It's a pastor about Abraham's offspring being servants for 400 years. Does it have anything to do with Abraham, with Abraham's? Since God just told him what will happen. Thank you. Yes, it has everything to do with Abraham. All right. With Abraham, there was a way they were also supposed to raise their children. And now that they were not raised, they will also keep making the same mistake their father made. One of the things you have to avoid as a human being is to repeat the same mistake of your parents. If you think your parents suffered, you will suffer times 4, times 5, because the days in which they live is different from the days in which you are living. You don't repeat the mistake of your parents. But you know, that was what happened to Jacob. The same thing the mother did that cost even him himself, Jacob, badly. He repeated the same mistake. For Esau, I don't want to even talk about him. The moment he saw that his birthright has been given to somebody else, he knew very well that as a Jew, he was not supposed to marry a foreigner. That was the main reason why he went to marry from Egypt. He counted himself out and he decided to condemn his own life now. So there was no option. Should Jacob fail, there was no option to come back to Esau, because for him, he destroyed himself completely. Are you still here?
Yes.
There is a question here. Thank you for this question. I was wondering as well. Okay. Yes, it starts from Abraham. Now that he didn't put his house in proper order, it's going to affect the whole generation. You saw it, it affected Isaac. But you see, Isaac's main problem was Ishmael. The story is not in the Bible. Ishmael was a big headache to Isaac for many years. The same family failure from Abraham. He married and he amplified the same thing his father did. So people of God, watch your family line, all right? Don't fall the same place your parents fell. No, don't do it. All right. So can we say that God was just telling Abraham the obvious? Yes, he was just telling him. He was just telling him. Because God was actually not happy with the fact that the salvation of men is going to be delayed for 400 years. If he tell Abraham about it, Abraham wouldn't understand. He wouldn't even get what God is talking about. But God just told him anyway. He didn't see it fulfilled. He couldn't do anything about it. He should have asked God, so Lord, what should I do about it? But for he himself, he has been in Egypt many times. He loved there. Pharaoh gave gifts. He loved Pharaoh's goats, Pharaoh's cow, how Pharaoh gave him gifts frequently. He loved it. So when he heard his offerings are going there 400 years, he thought God was saying something nice. But he should have intervened. He should have asked God, so, hey, they are not Egyptians. What are they doing there 400 years? He should have asked a question. God would have shown him what to do to prevent that. That was actually the reason why God was raising the topic. But he was in a deep sleep. A horror has come over him. He wake up, wiped himself, and said, was I lying in the dust? And went home. He went home. God spoke with him several times. He wasn't bothered to ask about it. The Lord, when we were talking last time, you talked about 400 years in Egypt. What is the meaning? He was not bothered. He was not. Pastor, how else would the 12 sons of Jacob, apart from the drama played by Laban? I didn't get a question well. You mean the rest of them? What drama did they play? Oh, you can read the story for yourself. Read. The firstborn ended up sleeping with the same woman with the father. Right? Instead of blessing him, he cursed him. Some of these two guys also crash on a woman. And you know, all these things are curses, right? Christ couldn't be produced through their line. All right. He didn't see anything wrong with it. Okay. Somebody's listening here. There's a question here, Pastor. What about Genesis 39 to 41? What effect did it have on Esau? Was the blessing affected? For Esau, he wrote himself out, so he couldn't be, God couldn't come back to him. So he's out of the story. All right. He's out of the story. All right. Sorry. Esau, yeah, I said Esau wrote himself off, so he's out of the story. How else would the 12 sons of Jacob be born apart from the drama played by Laban? Well, is God really interested in 12 sons? He's not really interested in 12 sons. You don't need 12 sons for anything. But now that they were produced, he had no choice but to use them anyways. If they were 13, he would have used 13. All right. Did curses begin from Rebecca since she said, let the curse come on? No, because the condition for which she said the curse should come upon her, it didn't happen. Okay, the man didn't find out that they were lying to him. So it didn't happen. So the curse didn't start from her. All right, I think we've had enough for today, and we will continue tomorrow. Tomorrow we are starting Exodus. Don't miss service. Any other question? All right, have a wonderful, yeah, you have a question?
Yes, sir. Please, I want to know, is Jesus' birthday in the Bible? Like the day he did birthday?
Is Jesus what?
Is Jesus' birthday in the Bible? Like on the
Yes.
25th, wait,
Yes.
when
It's in. It's in the Bible. I'll show you tomorrow. The very day he was born, the date, day, year, time are all in the Bible. I will show you tomorrow, since you want to know. All right. All right. I need to quickly meet somebody. All right. So sorry for